So, good morning and welcome back. Today, I would like to talk about some advice that's going around, and we hear this from therapists and counselors, life coaches of various kinds, and that advice is to build community. And this sounds like good advice to me because we live in a world that is extremely isolating and alienating in so many ways. First of all, and most obviously, we are alienated from nature and we feel isolated in the cosmos, you might say, isolated in the biosphere. But we also feel isolated and alienated because of commerce and capitalism and the transactional nature of modern society, where we're constantly buying and selling products and services with one another, and those transactional relationships are abnormal. Our technology is also isolating because if you go around with earbuds in all the time and you're constantly doing this, you're not talking to the people around you. You're living in a little bubble. And finally, the complexity of the modern world, the acceleration of the modern world forces us into isolation as well. Because when you're suffering from cognitive overload and everything becomes a homework project, we begin to contract. And we have more and more workload that we have to deal with, and we become smaller and more isolated from the people around us. So yes, build community is good advice. But what kind of community? What are we looking for here? There's so many different kinds. There's communities of gossip, where we simply get together and chat with one another. That might be a good choice. There are communities of interest. So perhaps you'll have a hobby. Maybe you are interested in cooking or fly fishing or how to design a website or something. So you get together with other people and you share those interests. There are communities of meaning and value and belief. There are communities of practice. Maybe you'd like to do meditation with others or do yoga with others. That's a community of practice. But for me, the gold standard in all of this are communities of exposure, experience, and engagement. And the classic example here comes from the paleo, comes from prehistory. So imagine yourself as a hunter-gatherer living 100,000 years ago in East Africa or South Africa. You're out in the grassland. And you're with your people, you're living in a predator-rich environment. There are lions and leopards and hyenas and other large, dangerous animals around you. And the way to stay safe is to stay within your tribe. And that danger that everyone agrees upon has a bonding effect. Everyone is feeling a shared sense of predicament. You're all in this together. That's the gold standard for building community because it's palpable. You can feel it in your body. There are similar examples. For example, if you're part of a military operation, maybe a small unit that goes into combat, you're going to feel this intense bonding with one another because you're up against danger, risk, ambiguity, and you know that you have to depend on one another if you're going to survive. This is something that Sebastian Junger has written about in his book Tribe, and it's an extremely powerful force. Other examples include things like team sports. So you're on a team and you're going into kind of a symbolic combat against your opposition, your adversary. Your autonomic nervous systems are functioning pretty much in synchrony. You all agree on what's dangerous and what's success. And that's a palpable sense of unity as well. But it doesn't have to be so overtly dangerous. Because even if you're part of a theater group or you're part of a musical group and you're going into a performance, that's exposure. That's engagement. And there's a certain risk and a certain ambiguity to going out on stage and exposing yourself to your audience. That too is a bonding experience that builds community. So all of these things are good options for us. These are powerful forms that we can turn to. And it also argues for what we might call an adventure curriculum, especially for young people, putting people literally in harm's way in groups so that they can feel that sense of exposure and risk and engagement driving people together. That builds community. That builds bonding. Now, sadly, we have in the modern world a sense of safetyism. We've really gone all in as a people on making things safer and safer and safer. And there's certain value there, obviously. But what happens when you take away danger entirely and replace it with stress? Well, then that erodes our sense of community, our sense of belonging, our sense of togetherness. So yes, when you're looking for community, look for that kind of engagement, that kind of exposure, and that embrace of risk and danger and ambiguity. That will bring people together. See you next time.